Okay, so normally I would start off with a little bit of backstory on the Book of Ancient, but it's explained almost immediately into the questline, so we'll just jump right into it. This quest starts off with a man who introduces himself as Alcaster the Sorcerer. He studied the intricate details of magic and wizardry for over 300 years. He's looking for help, and you seem capable, so he tells you a little story. Recently, he's found something interesting from an old book while studying forbidden magic. I don't know why he would tell you that, since it's supposedly forbidden, but okay. The book states that somewhere around Assyria, there is another incredible tome called the Book of Ancient that is hidden away somewhere. The Book of Ancient was used ages ago during a war, but its whereabouts have been lost since then. Alcaster wants to study the Book of Ancient because it's probably full of important, previously unknown knowledge on spells. However, he's old and busy researching currently, so he asks you to find it for him. He directs you to Jade, whom he's heard rumor that she's friends with the descendant of the mysterious author of the Book of Ancient. Now, the quest line has obviously changed slightly as NPCs have been moved around. Alcaster used to be in the El Nath market, and he mentions Jade is in Orbis for some reason, but she's not. She's always been in El Nath. But anyway, you go see Jade, and she introduces herself to you, and she tells you that she's been studying the geography of the floating island of Orbis for a while. She's worried about a friend of hers who disappeared out of the blue one day. You ask her about the Book of Ancient, and she tells you someone named Hela told her about it a while back, and that she herself was tracking it down. However, she dropped her journal out in the snowfield when she stumbled across a weird small tomb. She couldn't get near it though, because all of the monsters in the area, but tells you the location of the tomb at the icy cold field. You travel out into the wilderness of El Nath and dig up the tomb, finding an old ring on the finger of the corpse buried within. Now, one of the members of the Alpha Platoon, who has made an emergency landing and got stuck in the area, is nearby. And you ask him about the old ring that you found. He looks it over a little bit and says that it's worn, old, looks terrible, but it holds a special power. He'll tell you more about it after you help him clear out some of the nearby wolves. After killing a few and collecting their tails, he tells you that he saw some pieces of an old map near the tomb that had the words ring and key written on them, but they've been spread apart by the Hectors. You figure it's probably the key to the location of the Book of Ancient. Sergeant Bravo doesn't know what you're talking about, but he cheers you on anyway and tells you to keep the ring safe. You find the pieces of the map and you bring them to Alcaster, who pieces them together with a special magic ritual called Unbliteration. After he casts the spell, he tries to study it, but he can't read the map very well. He does recognize the word Orbis and deduces that the Book of Ancient must be hidden within the Orbis Tower. He says the map also shows that the book is hidden within a statue on the 8th floor of Orbis Tower, and that the old ring is the key to opening the statue. While you retrieve the book, he'll work on a spell to seal it, which I don't know why he wants to seal it now, because he said before that he wanted to research it, but okay. When you reach the 8th floor of the Orbis Tower and investigate the statue, at the bottom of it is a sparkling core. As you unlock the core with the old ring, it disappears and you retrieve the Book of Ancient. The book itself contains incredible spells that are banned and is so powerful that a regular person can't even open it. But bringing it back to Alcaster, he says he's going to try his hardest to seal up the book. He'll be busy for a while as that book is just packed with so much power that it'll take him a long time to even find a way to seal it up. But he says that he'll do the rest of the work. And if you ever manage to find yourself in El Nath again, to come visit him. Really, this seems incredibly counterproductive as the book was already sealed technically, and you just completely undid all of that just in turn for Alcaster to seal it himself. But okay, sure. Anyway, later on, when you do end up visiting El Nath again and Alcaster, he tells you that after endless study and research, he's finally found a clue to help seal the Book of Ancient for good. However, the book is too powerful that he can't do it on his own. Apparently, it's forbidden for what he wants to attempt, but to seal it up, he needs an item that possesses awesome magical power. To prevent evil use of the Book of Ancient, he will need a star rock, which only exceptionally evil beasts possess. He asks you to retrieve one from a monster like Eliza, the Snow Witch, or Snowman, which are kind of weird choices because Eliza isn't exactly evil, just Eliza's clone is sort of evil, and the Snow Witch is definitely evil, but the Snowman is not evil at all. He's actually a good creature. But anyway, you fetch the Star Rock for him, and he thanks you, and he seals up the Book of Ancient immediately. You do find out afterwards that as a result of sealing up the Book of Ancient, Alcaster had to use up about half of the power he's accumulated over the last 800 years. But he can now die in peace. Because of your help, as a sign of appreciation, he offers to trade you some of the rare items in his possession whenever you wish. You can purchase a few things like magic or summoning rocks from him, as well as holy water and all cure potions. So that's the quest as it stands in current Maple. Now, in the original version of this quest, it's a lot longer and a lot more in depth on a couple other things. When Alcaster first speaks with you, he tells you that the book he's been reading about speaks about a hidden away book called the Book of Ancient, which tells about a great world war that happened hundreds of years ago. The only living descendant of the author is somebody named Hela, who resides in Orbis. He thinks that she might have a clue or two on its whereabouts, so you should go seek her out. In Orbis, you find Hela's house, but you only speak with her housekeeper, Elma, who tells you that Miss Hela had left months ago and hasn't been back since, but visitors do drop by every day looking for her. The housekeeper can take a message for you, but instead, you ask her if Hela had any friends, and she mentions that Jade in El Nath has been friends with Miss Hela since childhood, so Jade might know where she went. You travel from Orbis back to El Nath and speak with Jade, who tells you that Hela disappeared without word soon after losing her mother a few months ago. Jade has gone everywhere, to every place that has ever had anything to do with Hela, but has not been able to find her and has kind of given up on the search. She does remember that Hela mentioned her keepsake from her late mother being stolen, so she may have gone looking for it, and maybe Elma might know something about it, so you have to head all the way back from El Nath to Orbis again to ask her. So when you do, Elma says that one pitch black night somebody stole the item, but remembers a few days before Hela left, she mentioned something about an old lady, but apparently there are no old ladies in Orbis. And she says that Jade might know something about the old lady because Jade loves traveling around the island. And personally, I don't know what island they're referring to, but I assume it's like Orbis as a floating island, or it could be Osiria in general, but who knows. Anyway, you travel back to El Nath, and Jade tells you that there's no old lady in Orbis or El Nath aside from somebody named Spiruna, who lives in a small house around Orbis Park that's surrounded by monsters. So you travel again from El Nath to Orbis, and when you reach Spiruna's house, she tells you that she's working on an important spell and to leave and just not bother her. You bother her anyway, and she says that she may have heard something about the name Hela, but she's busy. Eventually, she does admit that she knows her, but she can't tell you anything else, unless you find her precious black crystal that she lost a few days ago. She lost it somewhere in the snowfield while looking for materials for the current spell that she's working on. So, once again, you have to travel all the way to El Nath, and you go and you search, eventually finding the cracked black crystal amidst a pile of snow-covered rocks. And then you bring it all the way back from El Nath to Orbis Park, and then Spiruna is just furious that it's cracked. And you kind of ask her assistant about it, and she tells you that Spiruna needs that crystal to breathe life into all of her spells. Her assistant says that if you can bring fairy dust, which is a collection of dust that fairies create when they flap their wings, the crystal could be repaired. So this time you don't actually have to go all the way back to El Nath. You just go to Orbis instead, and you make a deal with Creel, the fairy, who hates humans. She supposedly owes Spiruna's assistant for something way back, and in exchange for pixie materials that she can use to make a good tool for wizards, she will give you some of her fairy dust. After you obtain it, you deliver the fairy dust to Spiruna, and she restores the crystal, and she kind of calms down, realizing that the monsters probably broke it, and that it's her fault anyway for leaving it there. She tells you about Hela, like she promised. 3 months ago, a young woman came to her, saying that she lost her mother because of an evil sorcerer, and wanted to acquire the powerful spell herself. She wanted to become Spiruna's assistant and learn everything from her, so Hela's been here the whole time. Hela admits that she is the descendant of the author of the Book of Ancient, and she wanted to get the book herself to learn the spells within it, but she hasn't been able to find it. She knows she's too weak to fully conquer the book, so I guess she just gives up on it, and she asks you to find it and then safely seal it away for good. She's only told Jade about it before, but the Book of Ancient is in the deep valley of the snowfield, and it was lost so long ago that it won't be found easily. She gives you her pendant to give to Jade so that you can ask about it. When you travel all the way back to El Nath and you deliver this pendant to Jade. She tells you that it's the pendant that she gave Hela back when they were little kids. Jade's glad that she can finally concentrate on her studies now that she knows that Hela is alright. And she tells you that she was checking out the landscape around El Nath and found a small tomb in the snowfield, but she couldn't get close to it because of the monsters. You head to the tomb and you dig up the burial site and you find the old ring on the finger of the corpse. You bring the ring back to Alcaster, who says that it doesn't look like much, but he can feel force emanating from it. He directs you to ask Scatter about it, who has been hunting exclusively in the valley for the last couple of years. When you go to Scatter and you show him the ring, he literally steals it from you and refuses to give it back unless you can make him rich. He says the price of wolfskin has skyrocketed, but it's a tough time hunting them lately since it's the time of year where they get very aggressive. So you bring him a bunch of wolfskin and he gives you the ring back and he tells you what he knows about it. When he was young, before even coming to Assyria, he had met the 4 wise men of Victoria Island, who happened to be talking about that exact ring when he saw them. He suggests that you visit the wise man of Pirion first. So you travel all the way from El Nath to Pirion in Victoria Island, and you show the ring to Dances with Balrog, who immediately recognizes it, and he calls it Elmina's old ring. You mention the Book of Ancient, and he says that he had forgotten about it for quite a while, but he doesn't know where the book is gone. But he does have a clue to finding it, but he needs a favor first. He's been giving away a bit of his power to all of the warrior hopefuls for hundreds of years, but recently there's been a sudden rush of new warriors. He has used up most of his power as a result, and in exchange for 2 power crystals, he will help you find the Book of Ancient. He gives you a piece of an old map that has been cut up into 4 different pieces, mentioning that it shows where the Book of Ancient is hidden. Each of the wise men have a piece of it. He tells you to visit the wise man of Ellinia, and that when you find the book, you need to seal it tight. So when you do find the wise man, Grendel, he tells you that he had already heard about you from Dances with Balrog, as they can communicate telepathically. Like Dances with Balrog, he has been lending his power out to the magicians for hundreds of years, and he wants 2 wisdom crystals to restore some of his power. He gives you the second map piece, and you're directed to the wise woman of Hennessy's, Athena Pierce, and he will let her know in advance. So similarly, she's been lending her power for hundreds of years, blah blah blah, 2 dex crystals, map piece, you go see the wise man of Kerning. Literally the same dialogue, but this time it's 2 luck crystals. The Dark Lord says that now that you have all 4 map pieces, you still won't be able to do anything with them. However, Alcaster might know something about putting them together. Then the Dark Lord says that you should also take care of the old ring as you hold the key to an important matter. So, all the way back in El Nath, Alcaster is pretty impressed with the map, but he's going to be needing memory powder to put the pieces back together. He says that Corporal Easy of Alpha Platoon must have found something while investigating around the Orbis Tower. You find Corporal Easy, who was on a secret operation, and mentions that him finding memory powder was supposed to be top secret. He says a comrade of his is arriving soon, but he has nothing to brag about, so he wants you to collect 3 toenails of a scary, humongous wolf called a werewolf in exchange for the memory powder. So you get the memory powder, you take it back to Alcaster, who casts the spell needed to fix the map. He looks over the map, and it's written in an ancient language, so he kind of has a hard time understanding. He realizes that the Book of Ancient is hidden within a statue at Orbis Tower, and to open it, you will need the old ring from the battle, which works as a key. He directs you to Orbis Tower to retrieve the Book of Ancient while he tries to figure out a way to seal it up for good. When you find the statue, at the bottom is a sparkling core that you use the old ring to unlock. A light beams out from the ring and disappears, and the sparkling core unlocks to reveal the Book of Ancient within. You take it back to Alcaster, and he says that he'll try his hardest to seal up the book. He'll take over for the rest of the work for now, but if you ever come back to El Nath, you need to visit him. When you do return eventually, he still has not sealed up the Book of Ancient, and he kind of admits that it's giving him headaches. After studying and researching for endless hours, he's found a clue, but the book is so powerful he can't do it on his own. It's forbidden to do what he's about to do, but to seal it up, he needs an item that possesses awesome magical power. A mysterious crystal called Dark Crystal has been forgotten for many years. Lately, the ore has been found from monsters with dark powers in them, but that only means one thing. The evil thoughts within those monsters are expanding by day, which is definitely not a good thing. He says that he really needs that crystal as well as Star Rock, and he mentions that Spiruna would be able to refine the Dark Crystal for you when you gather enough ore. When you eventually gather all the materials needed, he gets to sealing the Book of Ancient immediately. and he tells you to come back and visit sometime. And then again, you find out afterwards that as a result of sealing up the Book of Ancient, Alcaster has used about half of this power that he's accumulated over the last 800 years. And then same stuff, appreciation, blah blah blah, offers to trade you things. So that's about it for the Book of Ancient lore. Now, I honestly really like this quest because it provided so much world building for such a simple single item. The quest itself has a lot of like back and forth travel, and it's like pretty tedious at times, but it's still pretty cool because it sort of provided like a small gate for people who didn't want to go through the effort just to access Alcaster's shop. And the shop itself was like fairly important because you could buy magic rocks, which were used for like skills like Mystic Door, which allowed you to create a temporary doorway portal between the map that you were in and the nearest town, and spells like Doom, which was another old pre-skill that could turn multiple monsters into snails. And the summoning rocks, which you could also buy from Alcaster, they were used for skills like Summon Dragon or Silver Hawk and Golden Eagle. But probably the most popular one was Shadow Partner. And instead of relying on getting these items as drops, you could just do this like fairly long questline to get access to those items. But I really like that this questline expands a bit more on like how the wise men of Victoria Island met, and that they've been alive for hundreds of years, gifting their power to others. And it technically still fits with current lore as well, aside from the Dark Lord, who has only been the Dark Lord for like maybe a decade or two. Dances with Balrog was just an infant when you go back in time to Ellen Forest, and he's still alive currently, so he's pretty old. And Athena Pierce is an elf, so she's pretty old since she was around training with Mercedes before the Black Mage attacks, which were an undisclosed amount of hundreds of years ago. And Grendel the Really Old is really old. But it kind of puts more dates on Alcaster as well, who we know has been in El Nath at least for 300 years and had been the third president of the Megacia Alchemy Society at some point, but at the end of the questline is said to have been alive for at least 800 years. And we don't really know details about this great war from 300 years ago where the wise men all met and where Elmina's spells from the Book of Ancient were used as weapons, but it could have potentially been laying the groundwork for the Black Mage's storyline. But you have to keep in mind that this quest was written and implemented into the game like way before the Black Mage was even introduced as a concept. So really, who knows what the Great War could have actually been? With the rework of this questline, it doesn't even mention Elmina or any of the wise men anymore, and you don't even go see anything about Hello, really. So it could have been phased out completely. I would have liked to know more about Elmina and like what kind of magic is forbidden, aside from using dark crystals, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I've said this in some of my other recent videos, but I've been organizing the El Nath lore recently, and the region just has like so many things involved in it. So it kind of has to be split up a little bit. And also I'm just finding it easier to cover smaller quest lines rather than an entire region or town. And also, I know that I make videos fairly infrequently, so, you know, if you want to subscribe and click the little bell icon, you can get a notification when I do actually get around to making another video. But anyway, if there's anything important that I'm missing, let me know.